Coming up on Network Africa. 3 Egyptian Coptic monks brutally murdered in a monastery in South Africa. Sudanese army retakes state broadcasters' headquarters from the Rapid Support Forces. Plus, UK to pay asylum seekers to move to Rwanda under a new migration scheme. Welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin here in Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu has directed the opening of Nigeria's land and air borders with the Republic of Niger and the lifting of other sanctions against the country with immediate effect. According to a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Ajuri Ngalale, the directive is in compliance with the decision of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government at its extraordinary summit on February 24, 2024 in Abuja. ECOWAS leaders had agreed to lift economic sanctions against the Republic of Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea. Now, by this directive, the following sanctions are to be lifted immediately. Closure of land and air borders between Nigeria and Niger Republic, as well as ECOWAS no-fly zone on all commercial flights to and from Niger Republic. The suspension of all commercial and financial transactions between Nigeria and Niger, as well as the freeze of all service transactions, including utility services and electricity to Niger Republic. Freeze of assets of the Republic of Niger in ECOWAS central banks and freeze of assets of the Republic of Niger state enterprises and parastatals in commercial banks. Suspension of Niger from all financial assistance and transactions with all financial institutions, particularly the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development. Now, travel bans also on government officials and their family members. President Tinubu has also approved the lifting of financial and economic sanctions against the Republic of Guinea. To South Africa now, where 3 Egyptian Coptic monks have been killed inside a monastery in the capital city of Pretoria, according to a statement put out by the South African Archdiocese of the Coptic Orthodox Church. Father Takle Musa, Father Mina Eva Marcus, and Father Justus Eva Marcus were brutally murdered on Tuesday. They were killed at the St. Mark and St. Samuel, the Confessor Monastery, located in Cullinan, a small town 30 kilometers east of the capital. An Egyptian member of the church has been arrested as a possible suspect. The murder has the entire Coptic Orthodox community in South Africa and beyond in shock. The Archbishop Angelos of the Coptic Orthodox Church in London described it as saddening and shocking. Let's get more on this story now. Joining us is our Channels TV correspondent, Innocent Semosa in Johannesburg. Hello, Innocent. Thank you for your time. Yet another shocking crime in South Africa. What more can you tell us about police investigations?
Indeed, Layo. A very good evening to you and our viewers around the world. It's always good talking to you. Another disappointing news coming out of Pretoria. I mean, you and I, Layo, have been talking about the issues of crime in the country for some time now, and it does seem as though it is getting out of order now. It's getting out of control. But we heard from the South African Police Services. They issued a statement. They said that all the 3 victims were found with stab wounds. While the 4th one, of course, it's been, that's what was said in different publications, that he said that was hit by an iron rod before fleeing and hiding. But the motive, of course, of this gruesome act of I don't know how to even categorize it. It's still a mystery right now, because the police said that they're still investigating as to what could have led to this incident. But of course, the South Africa has one of the highest murder rates in the world, Layo, and yeah, and armed robbery also. It's common in the country, and I'm saying this under my breath, because it's quite disappointing to always sit here and really talk about these issues that are really disappointing, whereby people would, be beaten because of their tribe, be robbed when they're going to work, or robbed, hijacked their cars. It's quite really disappointing. In fact, I think the challenge also is that if the government can find a way to capacitate the economy, make a conducive environment for private sector to get these people employed, I guess would really go a long way in dealing with these issues of crime. Because capacitating the police in itself, Layo, in my view, I don't think it will help, because we do have police, but the challenge really is that it does seem as though people don't really have jobs, and then they resort to things called ingabi in South Africa, whereby you can actually buy someone's head and put money on someone's head, so they go and execute the person. So we have something like that in South Africa. And if you do the research, it does exacerbate it by the issues of unemployment in the country. But Layo, we do know also, according to the police also, they also mentioned that one of the suspects is being traced, but it does seem as though the information is quite sketchy at the moment, because we also heard from the Facebook message that they put up was very limited information as to what could have led to these particular murders, Layo.
Yeah, and while the police is, looking for a motive during their investigations, they have told us that a suspect has been arrested who happens to be an Egyptian member of the church, which we can possibly say knew these monks. So it seems like a targeted attack. But how is the Coptic community, faring at this time of this tragedy?
Well, I can tell you now, Layo, that it's disappointments everywhere. People have been really speaking about this issue. In fact, even some people in the entertainment industry, they came out to really speak against this issue. Like I said earlier, the motives is not known so far. We don't know whether or not there are challenges amongst the monks. They're fighting amongst themselves. So one was, issued people to go and execute someone, and whether or not, because the thing is, we heard that these people, they didn't take anything. They just murdered them. They didn't take any belongings or whatsoever. So that just goes to show that they really wanted to kill these people, but the motive really is still a mystery at this point in time. But it does look like someone was ordered to go and execute them, because if they didn't take anything, what was the motive behind that? But we'll wait for the police to really do their investigation. But investigations for this kind of murders, Layo, in South Africa, it tends to take long. But I guess perhaps because they've got this one suspect, maybe it would lead to, it would lead to other possible leads to this particular case, Layo.
Indeed. Well, in the meantime, condolences to the families of these monks and also the community. But that will be all. Thank you so much, Innocent, our correspondent in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Thank you so much, colleague.
4 people have died and 1 person injured as Storm Filippo hit southern Mozambique's Inhambane province. The roofs have been ripped off schools and residential homes, and in the tourist areas of Tofo and Barra, the waves have destroyed several boats, while in some areas the roads are inaccessible. Well, Local authorities say the storm has disrupted electricity supply and communication lines. Storm Filippo continues to batter the province with rain and gusty winds. Its effects are already being felt in the capital Maputo and also the area around it. The Sudanese army says its soldiers have recaptured the headquarters of the state broadcaster in Omdurman, the city just across the Nile from the capital, Khartoum. Now, this is seen as a symbolic breakthrough for the army in its 11-month civil war with the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, because just after fighting broke out, the RSF took control of the headquarters of the state broadcaster. However, despite taking the building last April, they had not been able to transmit from it, and the state television continued to show pro-army content, which was broadcast from elsewhere in the country. In a statement from the army, they called it the recapture a major victory. The conflict in Sudan has led 8 million people to flee their homes, and there are several warnings of growing hunger. Well, despite the UN Security Council's call for a ceasefire during the holy month of Ramadan, intense fighting has continued in several parts of the capital. A cargo ship in the Indian Ocean has been boarded by suspected Somali pirates about 600 nautical miles off the country's coast. A maritime security firm confirmed 20 armed men had attacked the vessel, which was heading from Mozambique to the United Arab Emirates. A British maritime monitoring agency also confirmed the incident, but didn't specify if Somali pirates are involved. There have been about 20 hijackings or attempted hijackings in the Gulf of Aden and Somali Basin since November. There have also been attacks in the same region by Houthi rebels. Somali refugees say they are struggling with conditions in the UNHCR's Dadaab camp in Kenya. Somalia has undergone a succession of civil wars over 30 years, which has led to thousands of its residents leave the country to search for a better life. Many of them have fled the conflict in their country, where the Somali armed forces and government have been fighting against militant groups, most prominently the Al-Shabaab.
Refugees from Somalia shared their struggle with poor living conditions at the Dadaab United Nations Refugee Agency UNHCR camp situated in Garissa in eastern Kenya. Footage captures the daily life of refugees at the camp, where residents experience a lack of food, education and other essentials. Abubakar Ado is a refugee who had been staying in Dadaab refugee camp since 2012.
I came here 2012, in the year 2012. While I was young, I started to pursue my education from primary to secondary. I have been all over that time here in the Dadaab refugee camp. The life here in the Dadaab refugee camp is very much complex. Although that anyone that who have dream and have ambition can stay, but when it comes to life, the environment is very harsh. When it comes to climate, when it comes to daily bread, like what we call the food that the refugees are given. So life is very hard here. But why we are here in the refugee camp is some of them is like the clean water that we have, and also the bees, the bees that we have here in northeastern Kenya.
He laments the perceived lack of governance and oversight at the camp.
I am from a place called Sako, mainly controlled by the Al-Shabaab. Those people, they have not seen government since Yad Barre. So you can imagine at that, people who have not seen government in the last 40 years, meaning that there were no even basic education. There's no human right. People cannot say this, whatever they want to say. So there are a lot of problems, meaning they have even forgotten about the idea of government.
Another camp resident, Ahede Hassan Abdi, agrees it is a challenge to secure the necessary food and shelter.
Life here at the camp is very difficult. Getting enough food is almost impossible. We only get 2 kilograms of sorghum and lentils every 2 weeks. The housing too is deplorable. We have been forced to use blankets for walls and roofing just to get by.
Despite the conditions, Ahede vows not to return to Somalia during the ongoing conflict, as in the refugee camp, her 4 children would at least feel safe.
Somalia is still undergoing the same struggles that made us flee the country. Still in here, we're still facing the same problem. We have been living here for 27 years. We surely feel safe, but we suffer from the lack of food and shortage of washrooms.
The Dadaab refugee camp is home to almost 400,000 refugees, with a third of them registered by the UNHCR and the rest unregistered. The complex comprises of 3 camps, namely Dagahale, Ifo, and Hagadera. According to the UNHCR, 96% of the population is from Somalia, most of them fleeing famine and war in the country, with the remaining refugees being from South Sudan, DR Congo, and Ethiopia.
Welcome back to the program. Migrants whose asylum claims are rejected by the United Kingdom will now be given £3,000 to move to Rwanda. This is according to plans announced by the government. There's already a plan in place which pays failed asylum seekers to return to their home countries, but the new measure targets those who cannot return to their countries of origin. The cash in exchange for moving to Rwanda is part of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's plan to stop irregular migration. It does not replace the plan to deport illegal arrivals to Rwanda, which has been blocked by courts over concerns about the East African country's safety. The number of children who died before their 5th birthday has reached a historic low, dropping to 4.9 million in 2022. This is according to the latest estimates released by the United Nations Interagency Group for Child Mortality Estimation. The report reveals that more children are surviving today than ever before, with the global under-5 mortality rate declining by 51% since the year 2000. Several low and lower middle-income countries have outpaced this decline. The findings show that Cambodia, Malawi, Mongolia and Rwanda have reduced under-5 mortality by over 75% since the year 2000. However, it also shows that despite this progress, there is still a long road ahead to end all preventable child and youth deaths. The 68th Annual Commission on the Status of Women, CSW68, is underway in New York, with governments, civil society organizations, experts and activists from across the world coming together to agree on actions and investments that can end women's poverty and advance gender equality. It is the UN's largest annual gathering on gender equality and women's empowerment, taking place until the 22nd of March. The theme for this year is accelerating the achievement of gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls by addressing poverty and strengthening institutions and financing with a gender perspective.
The facts are clear. Women lead to peace. Budgets and policies must follow, with ambitious targets for women's participation and urgent investments in women's peace building. We cannot accept a world in which grandmothers fear their granddaughters will enjoy fewer rights than they had. We must speak out loud and clear, not on our watch. Women's needs, women's bodies, and women's fundamental rights are ignored. Male-dominated algorithms could literally program inequalities into activities from urban planning to credit ratings to medical imaging for years to come. This endangers men and boys as well as women and girls.
I urge each and every one of us to make a deliberate effort in supporting us young people, considering our diversities, protecting us against all forms of discrimination and harassment, because we want to be heard. I urge you to invest in women and girls. Women and girls in engineering, in science, in math. We, ladies and gentlemen, we want equity in allocation of these resources, and we want equality in all these opportunities. Let us empower young women and girls. Let us be their allies and not opponents. Let us support them and not crucate them.
More than 100 million women and girls could be lifted out of poverty if government prioritized education, healthcare, fair and equal wages, and expanded social benefits. Closing gender gaps in employment could boost gross domestic product per capita by 20% across all regions. The return on investment in gender equality is a guaranteed win for any society and economy.
And still in the spirit of Women's Month, thousands of people came together for the celebration of International Women's Day in Mondri, Western Equatoria, South Sudan. Supported by the UN mission in the country and humanitarian partners, the event was held under the national theme, Accelerate Gender Equality through Inclusion and Access to Productive Resources for Women. South Sudan's Minister of Gender, Aya Warile, talked about the importance of including and empowering girls and women to achieve gender equality. And representing the UN in the country, Anita Gbeho reiterated the world's body's commitment to supporting initiatives to increase women's meaningful inclusion and representation.
The International Women's Day empowers individuals and communities to learn about the challenges women face and also to work towards solving the problems or the challenges faced by women. The year's theme underscores the crucial role of inclusion in achieving gender equality. It is also a call for action to break down barriers, challenge stereotypes, and create environments where all women are valued and respected.
There is data that shows that women's participation in peace processes offers a greater chance for sustainable peace. We therefore urge South Sudan to uphold women's inclusion in the upcoming constitution-making process, as articulated in the South Sudanese Women's Charter, and also allow for women's safe and meaningful participation in the upcoming electoral processes. We call on South Sudan to champion the inclusion of women in civic and political spaces as provided for in the revitalized agreement. Legislative measures also called for in the revitalized agreement should be enacted to ensure minimum representation of 35% of women in key institutions and political processes.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.